You're good to go.
We're good? Oh, sorry. Yes, let's start. Welcome to tonight's meeting. This is our last one, and I want to thank everybody for coming in and helping and volunteering, and it's very appreciated. This meeting will be held in person in the notice meeting room. In conformance to New Hampshire RSA 91A, a quorum of the board's members must be physically present in the meeting room for the meeting to start and/or continue. The public can choose to attend and participate in person or by Zoom. If something occurs that disables access to Zoom, the meeting will continue regardless, and members of the public or board members using Zoom will have no recourse. Choosing to use Zoom is done at the individual's risk. Using Zoom requires the use of an enabled device. To participate on Zoom, use the following link: us02web.zoom.us/J/819-64729844. The webinar ID is 819-6472-9844. To listen only, call 1-646-558-8656 or 1-301-715-8592. Using this option only allows you to listen to the meeting with no opportunity to participate. To view this meeting, YouTube under the City of Laconia. Karen, could we have a call to?
Call the roll. Bruce Cheney,
Here.
Charlie St. Clair,
Here.
Gail Ober,
Here.
Jane LaRoche,
Here.
Mark Haynes,
Here.
Michael Foot,
Here.
Paul Dugan,
Here.
Peter Burnett is not here, and Stacy Susie here, and Robert Hamill is.
And our recording secretary is Karen Santoro, and staff in attendance is Rob Mora. And do I have an acceptance of minutes?
Move to accept minutes.
Second.
Excellent. And we are moving right along to,
We got to vote on it, Stacy.
sorry, thank you. Any objections to the acceptance of minutes?
I moved
Be
them as
all in
written.
favor.
Oh, yeah, you mean all in favor, yeah.
All those in favor is what you wanna.
That's how you want it swing.
You people voted me.
I
hope you're happy.
Unanimously too.
Come back. And we're happy we did.
And we're happy we
You do an excellent job.
So, are we all in favor? Yes.
In favor, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Nominate Stacy for next year.
If nothing else for laughs. Now we're gonna move right along to rankings. Yes. Yes.
I just have a procedural
Thank you,
question from this
Gail.
point on. So maybe it's just more of a staff question than it is anyone. I've not served on this committee before, so I'm asking because there may be some procedural things I don't understand. We voted, correct?
So you scored.
We scored. Okay,
So-
we scored. All right, let me finish then. We scored. And according to the scores of the conglomerate members of these, this is how the projects were ranked. And then the second line in is the number of votes that it actually got.
Correct.
Okay. What are we going to do tonight? What is the purpose of tonight's meeting?
So the purpose of tonight's meeting is, so you are correct. We have a total score and then it was ranked, based off that number of score. So tonight is your opportunity to say, well, I really liked item 2 more than anything else, and I felt like it needed to be rated higher than that, and you want to move it up to position 1. Or you felt like position 1 shouldn't be position 1 and it needs to be position 10. So this is our opportunity to come together and you can discuss why you feel like something needs to be pursued more than the next or needs to be moved down. And then you'll vote on where you want the final, this to actually be at the
Okay.
end of the day.
And then a follow-up to that question, if I may, Madam Chair. We have an unusual situation, in my opinion, in front of us tonight. We have a $6.6 million item that virtually totals everything else that's on this, that is contingent on bonding and a number of other things. How does that happen if that doesn't get, if for some reason that has to get held off a year? Do we just take the next,
So,
does the city council consider them next in order, or what happens?
so it's important for this board to not look at the cost of the item.
Okay, so right there, but okay,
Because we're not the ones that are gonna vote on the budget. City council,
Right.
'cause that's gonna be, this is gonna be adopted as part of city council's budget.
right,
So when city council looks at their budget come July, well, way before July,
yeah, well,
they'll be like, well, we have so much money to spend on capital improvements. And I'm sure Councilor Cheney or Councilor Haynes can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
They have so much money, and then they can bond so much, and if they decide they're gonna do all those things, if you ranked 1 through whatever, they can,
Rob, if I may, I
Yeah,
don't mean to
thank you.
interrupt.
yeah.
You forgot the city manager in this
So, yeah,
process.
so the city, yeah, so this goes to the city manager, and there's all these budget things that happen,
oh, I do know all of that. I mean, I know it's
Okay.
messy.
and if they decide that we can't afford this one, then they didn't afford it, and it gets moved to next year.
If I might, I think from my perspective, the importance of this document is to advise the council about a collection of people who've spent time, think are the important
Right.
capital improvements. The council cannot say, okay, we're gonna do the first 10 or the first 20 or whatever. Damn the torpedo, full speed ahead. We just can't do that.
Right, we understand, that I understand.
Okay, so for the lack of a better term, and this isn't the best, but this is an advisory document
Okay.
to the city manager and the city council. There are things on here, many city councilmen have no clue of what they entail.
Mhm.
I think that's fair to say.
Right.
You have spent time to say, where's beach water access and accessibility picnic tables? As a councilman, I'm sitting there going, we got a $6 million parking garage to worry about. Who brought up picnic tables? But obviously you folks, collectively, we folks, think it is important because it's fairly high on this list. Now, the council may not be able to do anything about it this year, but we've seen it and we know the committee has looked at it. I feel this way. I don't mean to speak for Councilman Haynes, although I suspect he agrees. It's important to me that people who spent extra time looking at this recommended them. And we're gonna do the best we can to get,
Well, I understand, we're, you know what I mean, everything
Okay.
is, you know, that I understand. I guess I just didn't know, like, once this leaves our hands and we've made a determination as to where, I guess I just wanted to confirm for myself and maybe from other people who haven't served on this committee before, or people who may be listening on Zoom, what happens? This is not carved in stone. This
No.
is a recommendation based on our research into these projects. Right.
the significance is this committee spent time.
Right.
Again, I don't mean to speak for Councilor Haynes, but I don't have time to do all of this. I mean, I'm on this committee, so I do, but I mean, my first 2 years on the council, I had no idea where this list came from or how it was determined. And a lot of it I didn't understand. So I mean, we rely on this committee to recommend stuff to us. So we have some idea, well, some hardworking folks think the parking garage is pretty damn important. So do we, by the way. So do we.
Okay.
But this helped for me, because there's some people, I've met people at the polls Tuesday who said, what are you wasting millions of dollars on the parking garage for? You know,
Because you can't have a smoking hole. You need something better.
If we had to rule out a drone strike, this was cheaper.
but I think that this helps the council, and I suspect the city manager, again, I can't speak for him. I think it helps them say, okay, these are projects that people who took the time to look at it think are worthwhile. Maybe
Okay.
we ought to give it some thought.
Okay, thank you. I just, like I said, I just wanted that clarified for the record for those of us on the committee that have never done this before.
Okay.
And that, it was kind of, it gets back to, well, why are we here?
And we welcome your inquisitiveness.
Well, no, I
And your
mean,
pers-
I'm just asking a question that
Yeah, no,
maybe
it's
other
good
people,
enough.
I'm not the only one on this committee that's new to it.
Can I ask
So-
a question also?
No.
No,
Please, we're
no.
all done.
I'm the only one that gets to ask
That's all the questions we can
I
say.
think it'll be a quick one. How far down the line, roughly, would you say is the funding would stop? Like, where's the cutoff on the ranking?
Hmm.
Is that a? No,
I don't think we can answer that for you. And let me say it this way. A lot of these are rather small items,
Mhm, Yeah,
$10,000, $20,000 items. And those are fairly easy to knock off. But the question about what if we decide not to do the parking garage this year? Does that free up funds to do other things on this list? As a matter of fact, it doesn't,
mhm.
because it's a bonded item. So I would tell you that probably down through the first page, a lot of that stuff will get approved. But that's just me. There's 5 other counselors who can say, no, we're only going to here, or we're taking 2 pages,
I figured there would be a ballpark area where.
Yeah,
it's gonna
I
be
think
like,
ballpark
no.
is somewhere near the end of this first page.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, and that's kind of that helps me a lot in thinking that, because I know there are some small, relatively small ticket items here. That, that we agreed that are kind of important, like the $22,000 for the flashing yellow lights at Vista. It's not a big ticket item, but we were pretty consistent that we thought that was a high priority thing, and I just hate to see someone draw a line across it and say, nope, that's not gonna happen, kind of a thing.
The
'Cause
the
it-
council's already moving to deal with that.
And then I did hear that too, that
So-
this may actually get done in this year's
but you
budget
see-
if there's the money,
And
but-
this helps us, the council. If somebody says, what are you wasting money on that light down there for? We can say, well, someone was killed there. A lot of people
There's that.
dash to get across. And the CIP committee prioritized it as important.
Okay.
So I mean, a combination of things makes what you do important here.
Oh, I wasn't discounting the importance. I just wanted to know what you guys think, what your thought process is when you find out. I did hear, and I had forgotten that I had heard that the city council is already talking about DPW, and that actually could be something that could happen in this year's money, if he's got it. And
We're
that,
working
and
towards
because
that.
that was like something Bob had brought up before, and he and I had actually spoken of it a couple of months ago. So, okay, now I know where we are and where we go. Sorry for the interruption.
Not at all.
But I just think we needed to be clear as to what where we go.
I actually have a question, because I don't remember this from last year. Down on page 2, placeholder is accepted on the roads. I don't remember reading that.
Which line?
35 and 36, right above the boom lift.
Oh, Plantation and Hillcrest?
So when it says placeholder is accepted,
So
Oh,
Public Works Director Wes Anderson does that often. Sometimes when he thinks that something is gonna happen or wants it to happen next year, but it's based off of some other variables that need to come into play. Like for that one, city council had to make a motion to accept the road and whatnot, and that didn't happen. Instead, it was, I think it was deemed an emergency access road
yes.
for the next 3 years. So that, whether we voted for that one or not this year, that one will get pushed out 3 years regardless. Because he was just using that as a placeholder in case that came to fruition, then he would have the funding to do that. So, well, since it didn't go that way, he'll he'll move it out.
And what about the Hillcrest Road? Did that already?
I don't know the status of that, if that has changed as of yet, but I do know the answer to Plantation Road.
Okay,
Where is Hillcrest?
Okay,
I'm
Hilliard.
sorry. Oh, that's off of Hilliard. That's part of, okay, I knew that. Sorry.
That's off of Hilliard.
Go up past the stump dump and a couple of roads on the left.
and then on the Weirs Beach gazebo lifeguard chair replacement, it looked like there was wording going beyond there.
That's the goose, the geese.
Oh, the geese.
Yep.
That's right.
Oh, the
Okay.
geese was in that line too?
Yeah, yes, that was very confusing that Parks put that in one line item. When it probably should have been 2 line items.
But it's not. And so I hope that when this goes before the city council, it says precisely what's on this line. So the geese removal is not left off.
Yeah, we had to do some researching to find where that fell, and that's how that, so.
And I wonder. Because when we looked at this, it was very hard to figure it out. And at least it was for me. Ron had this, so I wonder if it would have got as high as it did. I can't speak, I'm just wondering what everybody else thinks, but I just wonder if that would have gotten as high as it did at number 48, because I'm thinking, I thought Parks and Rec would have just kept that separate line like you just said, because then in my mind, I would have given the equipment a much higher rating. I'm pretty sure I gave that a 0 just because of that. Because everybody that I've spoken to in the public is, I want to say it's 100% of the people, they understand the problem with the geese, but when I tell them what was proposed here, they were horrified at it. Or other commentary. So, I just hope that the council, if we get to that question, reacts the same way as I feel many of their constituents would. But you're right about that, because it's not on there.
Well, and it's unfortunate because those lifeguard chairs, I would not go near one, and it's no wonder
No, I
we don't
understand.
have lifeguards. If that's what they've got to look
By
at.
lumping them all into one category, it's almost like we can't just say, well, we support the lifeguard chairs, but we really don't necessarily support the gazebo this year.
Or the geese.
Well, or the geese or whatever, but I
No,
mean,
it's not a
I'm thinking
whatever.
along those lines where I believe the chairs should be replaced. However, maybe the gazebo could wait.
If the board would so like, if they wanted to make a motion to amend that, I can make that a separate line item and then place the goose or the geese where the board would like me to place the geese.
Very good, Rob.
Well, in Belmont, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean,
If you
get
can
me
do
on
that-
the-
I mean,
You're all
Excel
geese.
wise, I mean, I'm not gonna
Funny, it's not-
physically
it's not
move them.
funny.
I move we move the geese to Canada.
So
Um,
do I have a motion that we want the geese to have their own line on the graph?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. Bruce, seconds.
I thought they dropped it off. I thought they didn't bother to ask for it.
Okay, yeah, there's
That's the
definitely a
point.
G
Yeah.
in there.
I actually remembered, I'm like,
Wrong,
where's the
dude.
geese thing? And I think they.
Thank
they must
you.
have Gave up. on it.
Everyone in favor of that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Now where?
Off the chart. That's what I
Where are
make
we
the
gonna
motion.
place it?
If we're talking about the geese or the
The
equipment,
geese.
I would make a motion that it's
64th.
however you do it. In my mind, it shouldn't.
Below the boom lift?
Below the
boom
list,
I
yeah.
second that.
as low as it goes, because
Can I have a vote on moving the geese below the boom lift?
is the boom lift the lowest thing?
Yes.
Can't you go lower than that?
Not with the boom lift.
No, it's a lift. Don't you?
No, but. just stop it.
Lower than,
How many
you end
hours
up
late at
lower
night?
than goose poop on this
Okay,
map.
all
You're
right,
not
as long
gonna
as
get
it's
your
not- yeah,
project.
okay, whatever.
Hey, Peter is here to put us in order.
Thank God.
Everybody do the limbo.
Okay.
Lower and lower we go.
Madam Chair, to that same end, I feel the same
We had
way
a motion and a
about,
second. We just need a vote.
oh, I think we did, I thought we did vote on
It
it.
kind of sort
No,
of.
we haven't voted on it yet. We made the
Yeah.
motion It was seconded, but we didn't
You
vote
have
on
an-
it
You
yet.
have an open motion on the floor.
We'll need to make a vote to finalize that. That will be the last item on the list.
Geese.
Peter, did you
Eradication.
want to participate in this vote on the moving the geese below the boom lift?
I'd like to be heard on behalf of the geese. They're here, as illegal immigrants. We understand that. But to move them back to Canada would be just too expensive. It's just another example of the state's responsibilities being put on the local municipalities. I say, let the geese stay, make them citizens, give them a chance to be American geese.
Okay, so that's
I'm
one
going
vote
with-
for,
Below the boom lift.
is there anyone opposed to moving the geese
No,
below?
no,
the-
no, just go with.
Just go with all those in favor,
All those
raise
in
your
favor.
Are
hand.
all those in favor?
All those in favor,
Alright.
say- raise your hand. Yeah.
Run them over
Okay.
with the boom
Okay,
lift.
that looks
Motion passes, we
unanimous.
don't care. Madam Chair, on that same thing, because you brought this up and it actually makes sense to me. I do believe that the lifeguard chairs should have been separated from the gazebo. I think they can be done in two separate things. And I
'Cause
think
they
the
are in
chairs are more
tough
important
shape.
than the gazebo. I mean, the chairs are
Very tough
life
shape.
safety and gazebos are gazebos.
And we might get people who would like to be a lifeguard if they had a nice new chair to sit in.
Well, or a safe chair. I mean, to sit in. I mean, let's not, I mean, it would be a new chair, but I'm saying, yeah, when I saw those pictures, I too was shocked. So I'd like to make a motion that we separate the Weirs Beach gazebo from the line item of lifeguard chair replacement.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Gail, a second from Charlie. May I have a vote?
All in favor, say.
All in favor? Thank you. Telling you, my vice chair is so,
Passes.
I think, Jane, did you vote?
I said yes.
Oh, got you.
Okay.
Unanimous.
We get a hand raised from Peter, so you have an all in favor.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to make a second motion that with the lifeguard chair replacement separated out from the rest of the projects on this, including our separating out from our illegal geese, that we move the life chair guard replacement higher up on the list to someplace above, like 50 or something like that. I think that now that that's separated out, I think that's something that could be accomplished at less price. And that could possibly be done under a different capital line, with a higher priority than where it is.
So
now.
but we were wading into muddy waters here, so to speak. In that, if they gave 30,000 as their price, does that include the eradication of the geese? Is that just the lifeguard chairs, maybe a little review?
Was everything.
So that was everything, so it could be less. I say leave it where it is and let city council figure it out.
Okay, so that's not a second to that motion.
No,
Okay.
but that doesn't matter. Someone could second it. There's plenty of people here in this room.
Is there a proposal on how much cost to drop off?
Yeah, that's
See,
my
we
question.
don't, I
precisely.
don't have that number, Paul. That's, so maybe I'll withdraw my motion and I'll make a motion that we ask city council to review this line item with the understanding that the majority member of this committee feel that the lifeguard chairs are important, are more important than is the gazebo
Or the geese.
Is this,
or the geese. Yeah.
is this something that we could go back to the Parks and Rec Department and ask them what the breakdown is and the
They'll
pricing?
have to present
they'll have
in
to do
front of
that
city
anyway.
council anyways, so that's the next
Okay.
time it gets seen.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so that would be my motion, that we ask the city council to consider, that this committee considers the lifeguard
Just
chairs
one question.
to be separate and that they are more important,
I don't,
or perhaps a higher priority
I don't. like
for the
that.
city
We
than
can
is
set them- we
the
can-
gazebo.
We can separate them,
I was just being
and I can put it
facetious.
right above the current one.
People like the
So
But you still don't know what the
We still don't know what the
actual
cost.
cost is.
Well, we're not gonna, these are all price holder costs
Right.
anyway.
But
Yeah,
I-
these aren't bidded or anything.
mean,
yeah.
For it to go to city council, for when it goes, they're just gonna look at the number of its placement.
That's what I'm saying. I'd rather see it placed higher and separated from the pavilion.
So I need a number to put it at of,
Well, if you do, you gotta bump something else.
Yeah,
Well, we gotta build
Remember
something
that.
else.
Yep.
leave it right there.
okay,
Can we have a 14.5?
You already have discussion on it and everybody,
And I'm sure the city manager or the counselor from Ward
I'm sure
6 or Ward
the
1. can s-
cost for just the chair replacement will
and-
be
Right,
pretty low from the 30,000.
Certainly with the gazebo, yeah, it might not even need to come out of capital.
So it
budget
might not
either.
even
I
be
mean,
a
you know, I
capital-
mean, it could be something she could do.
Asset then,
Yeah.
It might just be an operational.
That's what I'm saying. This could actually end up being an operational item. if she
again,
got the
right,
money.
that or the ward counselors from 1 or 6 would say, hey. So it shouldn't be a big deal.
right?
Then I'll withdraw the motion and just leave it that, you know, the city council understands that we've separated that out. We find that to be important.
Okay, sir.
Just as an observational thing, we had plenty of big water and winds over this past week. And along with overflows that we had on our border with Guilford, one of the other things that overtopped itself was this structure that passes as the bridge on Hilliard Road. I have some pictures if no one's done the tour out there. It's basically 2 granite and dirt dams with 4 passage throughs apiece. And instead of just, I'm glad it's at number 9, but as a recognition of what it'll actually take, and this is, you know, bringing in a little bit of a conservation type viewpoint to it, I think it'll take more than $20,000. There's actually 2 passageways there, and it should be engineered so that the water flows freely without being dammed, that it doesn't make it available for the beavers to dam it, and that it does take into account any future development there, including a recreational trail and water across there. So your passage design would have to take into account both recreation, increased flow, because there will be development up there, and a reasonable flow for the waters that go underneath it instead of being restricted by an unregulated dam, unless the city got their dam inspections here also this past week. I'll point out that there was a great amount of water that flowed through that valley, and it doesn't seem that that type of event is going to become less. So in conclusion, I like that it's up there at number 9. I would say that it takes more study to actually make that better for our future plans.
And I would, to that very end, with what Mike said, that is very consistent with where we have been going on the master plan steering committee and development along the Hilliard Road corridor. At this price, $20,000 may pay for the engineering of what we're talking about. So perhaps that we should look at that in terms of an engineering study to do the right job on that bridge. rather
Before
than
9 years from now.
Before 9 years from now, before we Band-Aid it out. So I don't know if that was a motion or not, but
It's not a
what he's-
motion, it's just
but what he's
discussion.
saying is consistent with what we've been talking about with the master plan and development in Ward 1. We're talking
I
about the
think-
Hilliard Road Bridge
I'm
now.
going to speak, because he's right here. But my opinion of the Ward 1 counselor, she's very much involved in this and is probably going to be pushing as hard as will some other people on the city council, because it is we all get it, you know, they get it.
Right.
We need more, just this would barely cover an engineering study to do it right.
Yeah, there was discussion about it being on the 10-year state bridge plan, and I would suspect that it would be somewhere down on the 9-year, 11 months and 29-day part of the
Yeah.
plan.
Just after the geese?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Um, The mayor and I have been out there. We've looked at the culvert, what it really is.
Mhm.
Um, There's two culverts actually, about 20 feet apart, 20 or 30 feet apart. One of them almost has no flow going through it. The other one has quite a bit of flow going through it. We talked about the fact that maybe what we can do is eliminate one of the culverts, which will save us funds. If, instead of trying to replace two, we replace one. And talk about doing somewhat like they did down on Court Street, where they take out the old one, put in the new one quickly, we hope. But yeah, I think I totally unrelated, I'm not totally unrelated, but largely unrelated to this. I think, and I've had some discussions about, everybody knows, we need affordable housing here in the city. Not subsidized housing, but affordable housing. You can't do that on 2-acre plots. You've got to find a way to break that down to half-acre or even quarter-acre lots. The only way to do that I know of, is to provide sewer and water. Because if you need sewerage, a leach field, you need 2 acres or at least a full acre and probably more. So the city council has to look at extending sewer and water to the northwest quadrant of the city over the next few years. I think we can bond a project to get it started. And then as developers start to put projects in, like we do with many other things, we say you have a responsibility for a percentage of the cost of this sewer and water that we've put in to try and recoup. The water department said to me when I went to one of their meetings, we don't think the people who are already on the water system should be paying for people who aren't, and getting them to pay for the new water system. And I tend to understand that, but I would also point out to them that the people who don't have water and sewer are paying the same taxes, some of which ends up going to the water company in some form or other. And they don't get anything out of it. So we, the council, need to find a way to extend that infrastructure to the northern part of the city. I don't think it'll happen in a 2-year period, but I think over the next dozen years or so, we can make a lot of strides. The water company estimated a couple of years ago that a water tower on top of Hilliard Road, where the flower place is there, the
Metal
garden
Bushers.
garden center. Somewhere in that area, a water tower would cost about $3 million. Includes the tower, that includes the pumps to get the water up there. It includes the lines that will have to carry the water, et cetera. Now, that estimate was a couple of years ago, so you can probably half again that amount of money. But we're going to stay at 16,000 people forever if we don't find a way to provide housing. And you'll never get the big influx of people with 2-acre zoning. It's just an absolute fact. And we need folks to move here to get jobs and to do the work that needs to be done. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pontificate.
No, and I think we're all on the same page. And where does that leave? I guess what the question at hand is that Mike had brought up that there's a lot of environmental concerns around the Hilliard Road Bridge. And while it's high on the list, do we want to take, and should we recommend that they take the $20,000 that they think they're going to spend or whatever and look to an engineering study to fix that problem heading into the future within the 9-year period? And find out what is it going to cost to build something over that span that's environmentally sound and will allow us to develop out there as our master plan and as the current will.
I think this is intended to do that.
Is it? Okay,
I think that's what this.
because this says repairs. It says replace bridge. I don't, I've never
Well,
heard of a bridge
it
being
has to be
replaced for 20
engineered.
years anyway.
They have to look at environmental issues.
Right.
They need somebody to do that. And unfortunately, that doesn't come for nothing.
No, I understand that.
So,
Okay.
all right.
I think, Peter, did you have your hand up?
I did, but I withdrew it. Thank you.
Do we want to leave it where it is, Mike? It's pretty high. on the
I
list.
really just trying to engender some discussion on this here. You know, as we talk about expanding our community, I would say that as personal observation, there's a landowner up there which is moving forward with or without the city and doing work on that road and making improvements, which makes it passable, almost. And yet, at some point, it would be nice to have a discussion on what his future plans are, how we may be able to integrate it together, how we may be able to render some incoming from our planned improvements. But I think that would be good to open up those lines of discussion, being the amount of work that's being done out there.
We have been looking at all of Hilliard Road. It's not as easy as I thought it was. Take the gate, and open it up and let people go. But it's not as hard as some people might
Correct.
want you to believe. And there's a lot of buildable land up there.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And there's
there
a
is.
lot that has been done. I'm not going to say shovel ready, but at this point here,
Have you been on Hilliard Road? I went up, I mean, the last time I was on Hilliard Road was like 1980 or 1990.
which was my previous past transition of it would have been in that time. But as I picked my brother Outlaw up in the Weirs, I decided I would go down and inspect the Hilliard Road Bridge, and I took my wife and my brother Outlaw and continued down and came out at pedal pushers in my Forester. So it's
Did it in your
still,
Forester?
yeah, with 2 extra people. There's a lot of screaming and moaning going on. But
In a Forester, huh?
irrespective of that, I was able to go vote.
I did it in my MGB, so,
Oh, back in the day.
no, back in the early 80s, and I hit a lot of rocks, but I
Yeah.
was able to get through.
And you don't have that MGB
But,
anymore.
No, I
but the
still
thing
do.
that startled me
It's the oil pan he doesn't. have.
was the amount of housing that's in there.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
It's just started, it used to be a campground.
Yeah. no.
Sorry, are we?
No, you're fine. I just wanted to point out that $20,000.
Yeah, Karen
I-
just pointed that out to me. The big explanation of that does call for engineering. That's what this money is
All
for,
right. In
actually.
that case,
Is
that's
is for engineering.
right on. Get right to it, I say.
And then I agree. That's a priority. It's high, so
Yeah,
it's
fine.
good. It's consistent with other things that we've been doing in the city. The only thing to hear that I would recommend, didn't recommend strongly, and would recommend dropping a little bit, and I know this is gonna be controversial, is while I support
Is
an
what,
impound building for the police department, I don't support the
what
fence.
rank number is it? Is this
Number
one?
20.
Thank you.
I do believe we need an impound building down there, equipment storage, which is number 14, which is, I had ranked it a little higher, but you know what I mean, the consensus wasn't there. At this point, I don't see the need right now for the security fence. I didn't support that, and I want to just say for the record that I don't support that. I don't like the idea of fencing in something. I mean, what are we gonna put container wire up there?
I
and make it
think-
look
I
like a
think-
prison compound? I don't support that. And that's just all I'm gonna say about that.
So I think where that came from, and being as this was presented last year also, was the safety of the officers' personal vehicles. And there was also an unfortunate incident over there in which would have been less able to happen if there was more security around it. So in that there, I kind of get where they're going at there.
I understand where they're coming from. I say lights, better lights and cameras could help it. Building a fence just because something bad happened someplace once or twice or maybe 3 times. It's, you can't, I don't see the burning need to put a fence around it. Like I said, I wholeheartely support impound.
It
That we
is-
need down there, but I'd like to put off on the fence. I don't like the idea of a fence, and that's just a personal provision. I worked in a public role for 20 years in the city and had my fair share of threats. I handled them without guns. And you know, these things just happen. Okay, I mean, I've been stocked in parking lots and things like that, and you just have to, if you want to put yourself out there, you just gotta deal with it.
You may
And-
notice that there are a number of vehicles that are in the old skate park.
Isn't that using that for impound now? That's where the
Right.
impound build, that's what I'm saying. I support impound, just not the fence.
But they also put some of their personal vehicles in there because they've been vandalized. I don't think the money's available to do this project this year. So moving it, I don't think is going to change much. But I'm sorry, I disagree.
No, you know, I understand that.
I think it's, taking care of their personal property is every bit as important. Look, I do have a little bit of experience in this.
No, I know
field,
you do.
And people do tend to want to get even. I've said to people for decades, I'd rather arrest somebody for murder, rape, or robbery than give them a parking ticket. Because they get really pissed about parking tickets.
That's,
That's a.
Don't they, Charlie?
that's right.
Yeah, so, but, you know,
Oh, you
you
don't wanna know.
can't believe how passionate people can be about minor things and then look for a way to get even.
Oh, sure.
And personal
Trust me,
vehicles. is
I
one of
can
the ways-
imagine that.
one of the ways.
I just wanted to say, there's too much open area in behind there.
There
I
is.
fully support that security fence.
I think a rank of 20 is spot on.
Where are we, Madam Chair?
So we are. I just want to say that I am pleased the Bond Beach bathhouse is way up there because I actually walk there every winter. I was under the assumption that it was in use during the summer. So to hear that it's not allowed to be used was a wake-up call for me. So I'm pleased that hopefully something can be done, because people pay to go in there.
Right.
And they have to have somewhere to go. And we want to keep the lake water clean. So I think that's, that was
I do
really
agree with
Been there
that.
in my life.
my comment for the evening. Did anybody else have any comments on the rankings?
On the what?
On the range?
Rankings.
On the rankings? No, other than like what I said is I would have given a lower ranking to the security fence, but that's not the will of the committee, so that's fine. I said what I have to say about that.
Well, you can certainly go to the city council meeting.
I'm
and-
done with it now. It's not that important to me. I just say what I have to say.
I know, I was
That's
being
it.
facetious. I was being facetious.
No, the one thing that I would have liked to see rated higher, because I don't know all the answers to this, because I think there's some preservation involved in this. And that's that little footbridge out here. I don't know, is that historic? It didn't rank very high, and I don't know. I've always really liked that little footbridge. I think that adds this element of character to the downtown water district. I would like to keep it. I don't know if it can be repaired. I don't know a lot about what construction techniques were used on it.
I'm sorry, there was and Bruce, you can, may wait. There was a discussion about replacing it,
Yeah,
and it's on some list, whether it's on the state's list or something, that it's got to be done.
it's got, so it's one of those
Yeah,
got to be
it's got
done
to be
things.
done.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, but I think there was a time frame, and I don't, I'd have to research that, but there was a pretty good discussion about that. And I think it has to be there, so.
And I agree. I think it has to be there. It's a unique piece of the character of the downtown area and the Riverwalk area.
Mhm.
And I'd hate to see it closed down because it's unsafe or unsound. And if it's within our power to step it up and take a hard look at that, that's what I'm saying.
Any other comments, concerns?
I do, it's just,
Yes.
there's two of us are sitting here, so we get it.
Okay, well, no, I just didn't, the other thing that's not on this thing, and I don't know if it's a topic for us, is I don't want them to tear down that bridge in the Weirs, in the north end of the Weirs.
I'm working on that.
Are you? Good.
I may have found a solution.
I hope so, because that's such a unique characteristic of that part of the Weirs. I'd hate to see it go.
Well, the state doesn't want to maintain it any longer.
No, they don't.
But as I pointed out to some others, the last time that bridge was worked on was like 70 years ago. So apparently it doesn't need a lot of maintenance. It's fixed.
I would weigh in on that even if it weren't used for vehicular
I'm
traffic.
with you, Mike. Yeah.
Certainly, it
Nice.
is a,
Oh, no, you can't go there because if you don't use it for vehicles, you're forcing everybody in from the ends
okay,
and that road won't take it. So don't even go with that.
so I belay my last. I certainly feel it's important also as an access way for the community to be able to move around the community, vehicular and otherwise.
80% of the people who live in the campground there, the
Hmm.
Christian campground,
Methodist, Jesus.
Methodist campground,
Hmm.
have called me or stopped me or whatever and said, I use that every day in the summer. Please do something. The budget for tearing down that bridge,
Oh, yeah.
because I talked to the two guys that were here that night,
With the OT.
and Counselor Kenny afterwards. And one of these guys said to me, I'm a little suspect at the $400,000 price tag to tear down that bridge. It must mean that we're investing a lot of money in the other entrances. Right?
Oh,
One up by Aquamarine and the other down by, what's that restaurant?
I know, but that's BS. It's
It's
impossible.
BS to you, Charlie, but it's not to them.
Well, that may well be, but there's no property up there. In the road, you almost, that's almost encouraging people to go out out that way. And it's just-
Increasing
it's
the
so
traffic.
tight. It's so tight up there.
Well,
So it's just.
I guess my point is if I can cut their costs in half and say repair the bridge
Yeah.
and give it to us.
And that's the quid pro quo. They'll fix it, we take it. Okay,
I-
that's what I understood it to be.
That's not something we ought to be talking
Yeah,
about.
I
outside of this
concur.
meeting, but
But yeah, I do. That's warm in my heart too.
Yeah, I just like the unique character of it. There can't be that many more of those left.
I am working on it.
Okay.
I won't say every day, but certainly one day a week. I'm
One day a
talking
week.
Be one thing if they were gonna
I'll be
replace
down there,
others.
Well,
I'll
one
be
day
down
my
there with
wife
the
lets
bucket and
me.
the paintbrush. We'll be good to go.
That's really all I had. Anyone have any thoughts about the low ranking for was
No.
it the Weirs Beach ladder truck? No, didn't. I don't know.
The fire department has $500,000 or $600,000 ambulances and million something ladder trucks and whatever, those all have to be long-term purchases.
They do.
And I think it's on the list because they want to be sure that this committee and the council is aware this equipment needs to be replaced on a time frame. And we ought to be thinking about putting money aside or whatever. So I don't think it's ranked low because certainly the city council doesn't think it's a low priority thing. But it has to fit in with all the other things we have to buy for both the police and the fire. I mean, they're the two, with all due respect to other agencies in the city, they're two most critical for all of us. We need cops and firemen or things ain't gonna go well, I guarantee you.
And we need roads for them to do their job.
Yep, yep, that's true too.
But with that, okay, now that I understand that better, then I'm fine. I was just surprised that it ranked as low as it did, and I didn't know the absolute urgency of when they needed
Yeah,
it.
I don't think it's urgent. I think they have other urgencies. But it's on the list to be replaced in a certain time frame.
Any other comments?
I have a last comment. if
Yes.
Nobody has anything else to say. I don't know how anybody else feels. I suspect I do. But I want to compliment you for the way you've run these meetings. I mean that. You know, I go to a lot of committee meetings and sometimes some of them are autocratic and some of them are, there's no structure at all. And here we are in the middle because of you. And I want to thank you for taking this on and helping us all out. Thank you.
I'll second.
I appreciate your faith and patience with me. Thank goodness I had a vice chair to help me out with how
Yeah.
to say
Do
things
you want those
correctly.
back?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Use it next year.
Well, that's
Do you
fine.
want a motion to move
That's
it?
fine. That's
Oh,
fine
I
with
didn't
me.
bring
Bill. I
mine. I'll
just said
drop it
for
off.
each of us.
I didn't draw. I didn't
So
bring
do
mine.
we have a motion to end
Motion
the
to
meeting?
adjourn.
Before,
oh.
Need a motion to move it.
I need a motion to present this to the planning board so they can forward it to the city manager.
Thank you.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, from Gail and seconded by Mike.
Okay, let's see, who wants to take a second?
Do they want all my scribble notes?
Oh, let Bruce
And-
participate.
That line anyway.
If,
I did everything
They
in
want
pencil
these.
when I was
They want
erasing.
these.
if you could return
I will return
your
mine. I didn't-
binders,
I'll bring mine back.
and if we could have
You just need
a
a vote.
motion.
You need
to vote on
You've got a motion and a second on the floor. You just need a vote.
Before we go to that,
Oh, yeah.
did the gentleman have anything he wanted to?
I wasn't sure if it was allowed. I figured you would just barrel up and say, hey, I want to speak.
Meeting 3 weeks ago, whatever, I would not be able to speak, but I'm here to support what you know, there was road crossing, and we're glad to hear the discussions that took place tonight. In terms of what's going. If we can get something much shorter than 8 or 9 years, that would be great. The water was real high. It was really high. We kind of seeing water come through the wall of that crossing.
Yeah.
Not through a pipe. It was going through the pipe, but also just through the wall. Gave me pause. But it's still there. We had a fire truck come across because the tree was on the wire, caught fire. But fire trucks are heavy too, so.
Yeah, they are.
So I really, like I said before, I'm confident it's gonna be okay, but not forever. So I think definitely from what I'm hearing you say.
Well, you are also welcome to attend the planning board meeting when they present this.
It'll be at the December meeting.
I think December 3rd, maybe?
It'll be,
A little.
I think it's December
Budget is
7th.
July.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday.
Months to do it. I mean, you really.
So
literally don't
December
know.
7th, 6:30
Yeah,
PM.
but we don't. we sometimes don't vote
You
on
have, you have a motion, a second to forward this.
So before I lose
You gotta-
control,
you gotta Vote to vote for support of it.
All those
Yeah,
in
all those
favor?
in favor. to say all those.
All
in favor.
those in favor of bringing this in front of the planning board?
Right? One more motion.
To adjourn.
Second,
He did that on purpose.
We'll take that as an all. in
Thank
favor.
heavens for the vice chair.
Vote.
All those in favor of adjourning this meeting?
I'll drop that off. I didn't realize you wanted that.
That's fine.
So noted.